Okay, so let's do a little video about how to combo with branded. I promised this video a few days ago, so here it is. I'm gonna go over not just the combos, like I did in my previous video where I showed off some combos, but I'm gonna actually explain them now, okay? We're gonna talk about some theory, put some explanation behind it, right? So yeah, let's get into it. First things first, I should mention that this is my current Master Duel branded deck. You'll notice that it might be slightly different than how you remember in my recent videos and in my spreadsheets and guides. This is slightly different to what I've recommended. The reason for that is tied to the combos, so it is relevant to the discussion here. But ultimately what it comes down to is that I'm still improving, always, right? I'm always improving. It's better to change your ideas when you get new information, right, and new practice, rather than sticking to your old ideas just to save face. It's always better to improve. So I'm sorry if it confuses you, you know, seeing slightly different deck lists all the time, but this is kind of the reality of how I play competitive decks. You're always tweaking, right? You're always changing it with the format and as changing it with your understanding as that evolves as well. So yeah. The differences in the deck list you might notice is that we're playing some Nadia Servants. We're also not playing branded in red anymore. We're also on Dogmatica Ecclesia, which might be new to you. And we're on one Ecclesia as well. We're on the new kit. And we've cut the old kit. That might be different from the video that you saw. And this is all tied to the combo theory, actually. So yeah, let's get into it. So first things first, when it comes to comboing with branded, before we get into any actual lines, I'm going to start with the actual basics, right? The very basics, the basic theory of comboing with the new branded is that you are now a one-card combo deck, right? Fallen of the White Dragon is a really strong one-card combo. You don't need to have additional engine pieces to back it up. If you resolve the one-card combo, the end board and follow-up that you get is good enough, right? So just like other one-card combo decks, you can now play like that. And the deck list has evolved around that fact. You'll notice that we're not just really playing two copies of the Fallen of the White Dragon, we're kind of playing a lot more. High Spirits is functionally just another copy of Fallen of the White Dragon. This is essentially just a rota for it. Even though it's not a one-card combo, it requires the right type of monster in your hand. But essentially, this card, if you do draw a target for it, just discard that target and searches for this card. And then you do the same, pretty much the same one-card combo anyway. You can imagine in practice it might change a little bit, depending on which card you discarded with High Spirits and which card you sent to the extra deck, from the extra deck to the graveyard. It might matter a little bit, but it doesn't matter too much, and you'll see once we get into the combo lines how little this actually makes a difference, starting with this compared to hard drawing this directly. So this is basically just another rota to get you 3 more copies of the Fallen of the White Dragon. Same is true for Aliber. Aliber is here, believe it or not, to not just search Branded Fusion, but actually primarily to search High Spirits, so that you can pair it with another monster to search for the Fallen of the White Dragon. And then again, you do the exact same one-card combo that you do with this, pretty much. Also, it might be different, just like High Spirits, it might be slightly different, since the fact that you now have an Aliber body on the board might be, you know, something slightly different. But for the most part, it's going to be the same bread and butter combo. You're just using Aliber and High Spirits as extra rotas. So Aliber is now 3 more rotas for your Fallen of the White Dragon. Goldsock is in here because it's essentially the same thing. You banish Mercuria, and when Mercuria is banished, it searches for this. And again, it might be slightly different because the Mercuria is banished rather than available in your deck, but the fundamental combo is the same. You're using it as a rota for this card. And even the deck size is based around this a little bit as well. The fact that it's 40 cards is actually trying to maximize your chances of drawing this, or your rotas for it. And every other starter you'll notice in the deck is actually not leaned into that much, right? All of the cards that can't access the Fallen of the White Dragon are not actually emphasized a lot, right? Opening, for example, this cannot do a 1-card combo with Fallen of the White Dragon because even though it gets to Aliber, it locks you out of the extra deck, or locks you out of synchros, right? So you can only summon fusions. And this card is a one-of as a result. It's not actually a good starter anymore. Branded Fusion itself is still played at the maximum copies, but this card is not accessing the Fallen of the White Dragon line, so it's not actually your ideal 1-card combo. And then I guess Nadia Servant is sort of like an in-between card where this card technically does access Fallen of the White Dragon, but it locks you out of the extra deck completely, so it is a slightly different line. And it's sort of in between, right? It's still a decent draw because getting to the Fallen of the White Dragon is still really, really good. It still does a really good combo. Nadia Servant is still a really good 1-card combo. And that's why it's still playable as a card in the deck, as a really good extender. But it's not played at 3 in my list, and some of the other old branded starters that you would play, like, you know, the second and third opening, you're not playing these anymore because you're trying to resolve this combo. So that's really the basics. Everything about the deck list is sort of there to primarily get you to the 1-card Wildbaz line, the Fallen of the White Dragon line. That's why the Aliber is at 3. That's why the High Spirits is at 3. That's why Sark is in here. That's why there's 2 of this, and that's why the deck is 40 cards to keep it nice and consistent. And then the rest of the starters, the Nadia, the Branded Fusion, the Opening, these are sort of your backup plan, your secondary option. If you don't have access to the Wildbaz line, then you have these as your backup plan as well. And that's less emphasized than the other cards because, like I said, we're not maxing out on these starters. We're playing just a smaller number of them. So that's the basics, the basic theory of comboing with the new deck. And the reason why I wanted to emphasize that is because it means that 1-card combos are actually very important now. Since basically your Aliber, your High Spirits are, even though they don't feel like it at first because they do require like multiple pieces, they're essentially the same idea as your 1-card combo. Whatever your 1-card combo is with this card probably changes what your 2-card combo is with Aliber and like a High Spirits target like Hewwwoo or Magnum, right? Whatever your 1-card combo is with this changes what you're going to do with High Spirits plus Hewwwoo, right? Changes what you're going to do with Gold Sock. So like your 1-card combo in theory is really everything now in terms of how you combo with this deck, because this card is just so good at playing by itself. No matter how you get to it, it's pretty good. So yeah, the 1-card combo is really relevant now. It's a lot different than how Branded used to be, where 1-card combos were pretty weak and they were also pretty few and far between because you used to play so much engine that you would always draw multiple engine pieces, and you would always lean into the plays that those multiple engine pieces provided you, right? Like you would use multiple cards to back up your combo, right, and make it elevated, right? You wouldn't just see Aliber as a 1-card combo and then hard drawn High Spirits as, you know, plus a target as like a backup plan. You would actually incorporate it all into your end board, and it would affect the size of your combo, right, a lot. It would make it so that it's very, very different, your end board. The same isn't really true now. Now you pretty much do everything with a 1-card combo, and every other engine piece that you draw is essentially just backup to play through hand traps, or very, very slight additional buff to the end board. But in many cases you can draw like Fallen of the White Dragon and like Cartesia and Aliber and Branded Fusion, and none of it will change the fact that you just have the same end board as your 1-card combo anyway. So a lot of the time, redundant engine pieces don't contribute to your combo end board. They're not important for combos. They just sort of act as pushes through hand traps. And that's really important for the combo theory as well, because it means that, yet again, your 1-card combos are really, really important. Since you're not doing 2-card combos and 3-card combos very often anymore, you are pretty much just doing your 1-card combo. So, with all that being said, now that we know the importance of the one card combo, what should it be? What should we do? What should we get in? What should we be getting out of our Fallen of the White Dragon? So what I'm going to do is hop over to my spreadsheet and quickly show you the line that I am currently most attracted to with this card, the line that I like the most right now. So yeah, let me show you that. Okay, so here we are on my spreadsheet. I think most of the lines on the spreadsheet are a little bit outdated at this point because, like I said, we have been learning some new stuff and trying out new ideas. But here's a new one I added recently, and this is my favorite line. This is what I prefer to do with the Fallen of the White Dragon. So let's start with it. I call it the April combo, the April version. You might have seen it in my recent video or on my streams. I'm a big fan of this combo. So let me show you what it is. So yeah, it is of course a Fallen of the White Dragon one card combo. And the way it's going to work is that we're going to start with the Fallen of the White Dragon. And we're going to send Titaniclad. Now immediately, if you've played a lot of Branded, you're already sort of like raising your eyebrow at sending Titaniclad. Or at least you should be. Because this plays very hard into Max C. And even Full Loss as well. You really ideally want to send Albion first, because sending Albion as cost here means that if you do get hit with Maxi or Fua on the other effect, you're not playing harder into it with the Titaniclad because it's Albion instead, and Albion doesn't play into Fua or Maxi, it just sets Fallen the Virtuous or Retribution maybe on the field, and that doesn't give a draw for Maxi or Fua, right? Whereas Titaniclad summoning Quem absolutely does, it gives a draw for both. So starting with this before you know what your opponent has, whether they have Maxi or Fua or not, is risky because you play into it harder. However, there's a very important reason why we sent this, and it does allow us to get the biggest board possible. If you sent a different card, you would not be able to achieve the same end board. After this combo, I'm going to show you another line that makes use of the playing around Maxi by sending Albion technique. It makes use of that, so stay tuned for that. But here is the full combo line. And I recommend you go for this line if you have like an out to Maxi, because then it's super free. It's not risky at all. You're going to summon the White Dragon, that's going to summon Ecclesia, and then Ecclesia is going to activate and you're going to summon Sword Soul. Then we're going to go for the Ecclesia Synchro. We're going to banish the Synchro, we're going to summon Quem. Now this is normally not my preferred target. If you've seen my other recommended combo lines, like my Branded and Red combos or Omega lines, things like that, they don't normally summon Quem. They normally summon Cartesia. However, we are going to summon Quem. You might think that summoning Quem feels a bit odd, because what is our Titaniclad going to be used for? But you'll see in the end phase just how we use this card. Summoning Quem is actually vital in order to get the full value out of this combo. So we're going to summon Quem. That's going to trigger. We're going to send Springen's Kit. Sword Soul also triggers here, but my line misses it. Yeah, Sword Soul triggers on the same chain as Quem here. So we should be summoning Ecclesia and sending Kit at the same time. Kit is then going to trigger and summon out the Fallen of the White Dragon. This card summons back, Fallen of Albaz or any monster that mentions it. And this is that. And this is very important to get the Fallen of the White Dragon body back on the board, because it is a non-tuner. Because we're going to make the second Synchro. And this is really the heart and soul of the April combo, of the current best combos that I think exist. They involve this card. It's not just this line, it's going to be the next line that I show you as well. I think this is really crucial to doing the best combo lines and having the best deck lists. I think that this is really good, and I think you're missing out if you're not playing it. Not just on combos, but also on some like improvised gameplay as well. So yep, what's going to happen here is that this card is going to activate, which adds a level 4 or 8 spellcaster whose attack equals its own defense. Quem is also going to trigger, and Quem is going to target the Albaz again. It feels really weird, it feels like you're just reviving useless bodies, but it is very important, right? The first time we revived the Albaz, we needed the non-tuner to make another Synchro, and now we're going to need this again as fusion material. And then the Sword Soul is going to resolve, and that's going to get us Cartesia. Then we can special summon Cartesia. Notice that we haven't normal summoned yet, right? The Fallen of the White Dragon doesn't normal summon itself, it special summons itself. And then Cartesia can special summon itself from the hand because we have Albaz. So our normal summon is still genuinely available here. Then we're going to activate it. We're going to fuse away the Sword Soul and the Albaz. This is why we needed the Albaz on the board. And we're going to make Albion. Albion's going to trigger, is going to banish the Sword Soul and the Albaz from the graveyard for Mirror Jade. And we're going to put Mirror Jade in the EMZ. The reason why Mirror Jade in the EMZ is important here is because you're going to very quickly run out of space if you keep putting everything in the main monster zone. So please take advantage of this zone. Next, we're going to go to the end phase. Then we're going to activate our Titaniclad, and that's going to summon out Dogmatica Ecclesia. This has to be in the deck for this combo to work, so we have to be playing the Nadia package with the Dogmatica Ecclesia. We have to be playing that. I mean, I guess you don't need to be playing Nadia, but you have to be playing this in order to do this combo. And this is going to add the Fallen and the Virtuous. Then we're going to activate it, still in the end phase. On Master Duel, what is important here, and it's just a general good tip for Branded in the end phase, is that you toggle on, because stuff like activating quick plays in the end phase, you're not going to get a chance to do that if you don't have any triggers remaining in Master Duel. If you're toggled onto auto, you're going to only be able to do this if you're toggled on. In this situation, we still have the Ecclesia trigger, but in general, it's a good rule of thumb. Once you're going to get to the end phase in Branded, just toggle on. It just helps you. You're going to get caught out at some point if you don't toggle on. And we're going to send the Dragon that Devours the Dogma, and we're going to pop our own Albion. So this is a really nice little trick that you might have seen with Dogma Dragon as the starting point, where you add Fallen and the Virtuous, and pop Albion from the field, and send Titaniclad with the cost. And it's a way of turning the one Dogma Dragon send into two Albaz fusion names, right? The Titaniclad and the Albion trigger. This is the same idea, but it's just done slightly differently because we access the Fallen and the Virtuous through Titaniclad rather than Dogma Dragon itself. And this is really the key point about this combo that makes it slightly better than other combos. It's that by accessing the Fallen and the Virtuous without Dogma Dragon, it means that the Dogma Dragon itself is live, right? And it can search for a different card, which is going to be our Mercuria. This is not something that every one-card combo achieves. Most one-card combos don't actually search Mercuria. We're also going to get Albion, and we're going to get to set Retribution here. And that's basically it. Our Synchro returns, and our Ecclesia adds back to our hand. You don't have to add this back to your hand, but I recommend that you do. There's kind of no reason to. No reason not to, I mean. So yeah, here is what we have. We have a Mirror Jade, we have the Synchro, we have Quem, we have Cartesia, we have Retribution with multiple names in the graveyard, and we have Mercuria in the hand. Now this is really, really strong. It's a lot of disruptions. If you were to count the disruptions, I feel like you would be sort of missing some of the point, because Branded doesn't normally like achieve maximum disruptions. Normally things happen that make it not go quite as planned. But if we were to count them, just to get an idea, Mirror Jade is a banish, Mercuria is a negate, Retribution's a negate. That's 3 solid disruptions. Cartesia here can fuse away the Mirror Jade into Grand Granule, which can trigger the Quem to revive the Mirror Jade, banish again, that's 4 solid disruptions. Synchro can summon Albaz, fuse, that's 5 solid disruptions, and then depending on what you're able to make with that Albaz, that could be a 6th disruption. So you've got 5+ disruptions potentially here. Realistically, I don't think your turns go like that. Normally something's going to happen that makes it not so smooth, but still all the pieces are here. The only one downside to this end board is that there isn't an Albaz in play. There's no Albaz in the graveyard. And this can be exploited because it means that the actual Albaz name, you are relying on the Ecclesia Synchro resolving to access it. Okay? This is why you could have potentially left the Ecclesia in the graveyard, because then Quam can revive it, and Quam obviously, Ecclesia can access Albaz as well. So there's two potential options to get to an Albaz name, whereas if you add it to the hand, it's kind of stuck in the hand, you don't have any cards to discard it. So you're really relying on the Ecclesia Synchro to get to the Albaz name. So that could be a potential choke point for this end board if your opponent has, like, let's say it's Sky Striker and they Widow Anchor this. It could be cutting you off of your Albaz fuse, which is kinda annoying. However, the payoff is pretty damn high. One thing I really like about this end board is that having Mercuria, Retribution, and Mirror Jade on the end board gives you so much good coverage against the mirror match and also Draco Tail. Draco Tail is a really important matchup to beat right now in Master Duel because, well, it's still very, very good and it's a good matchup against Branded. It's one of the few decks that can break your full board with Engine. And the way that you stop it from breaking your board with Engine is by negating the Fusion Summon effects, okay? If they activate Ketu, you can Retribution it. If they activate Philomeno, you can Mercuria it, right? And that's two out of their 3 fusion spells. They could still have Branded Fusion, they could still have Rahu, they could still have multiple Ketu, because Retribution only negates the activation, so they can still use another one. Of course, they can still push through it, but it's a lot better than having no Mercuria and setting Fallen and the Virtuous. Then you would have no outs to any spell. You would be forced to eat the Resolved Fusion Summon of Arthalion and multiple names. You would be forced to eat that. And Branded is one of the decks that doesn't like to eat that. Arthalion can bounce Mirror Jade and doesn't mind getting banished itself because it's a vanilla. Non-targeting Malulus or Pans are really good against like Cartesias and Quams and Ecclesia Synchros, because if you do nothing, well, one of them gets iced. But if you do something, they can just go after the other one, right? So it's very, very good with the non-targeting board breakers against Branded Dracotel. I mean, it's really, really good against this kind of board. So having outs to it like Retribution and Merc that just shut down the Fusion Summon effects, really, really important in that matchup. And of course, even going forward, if Dracotel ever gets hit again, or, you know, the mirror match isn't very popular, it's very unlikely that Mercuria and Retribution are bad negates, right? Like, these are extremely generic. Every deck until the end of time is going to be activating monster effects. Every deck until the end of time is going to be trying to splash or summon, so I highly doubt this combo is going to be useless just because Dracotel disappears from the format too. And if you're playing against Cooltoon with this end board, you're totally fine, right? Just the double Mirror Jade is like kind of enough a lot of the time. If Cooltoon's going second into you, you just remove their normal summon, right? Or as soon as they put a body on the board, you remove it. That's how you beat Cooltoon with a board. You just Mirror Jade banish it. Then you Cartesia to reset your Jade, banish that next one. And if they happen to have another one, I mean, you can probably Retribution or Mercuria, right? You can Mercuria Rotary in the hand. If they ever do that, I recommend using Mercuria on that. And if they ever normal summon Q and try to activate it, you have the Retribution for that. So you're very, very set against 2 of the most common matchups. Yeah, so that's the April combo. That's the combo that I really like. Big weaknesses of this combo are, like I said, no Albaz name, so you're relying on the Synchro. And then the fact that you sent Titaniclad to start with means that you are weaker into Maxi and Fool. So what we can do is actually improve on that. So what I'm going to show you now is a combo that is basically this same line, but we're going to start by sending Albion. And we're going to see what difference that makes by playing around Maxi. So yeah, let's look at that now. Okay, so here we have Fallen of the White Dragon again, and I'm going to do this one live because I didn't have a replay ready for it, but that's fine. We're going to activate Fallen of the White Dragon, and this time we're going to send Albion. This is the most comfortable thing to do, and it's the most practical thing to do in a real situation. If you imagine having a real hand that doesn't have a Maxi out, let's say your opponent had a delay in the draw phase or the standby phase, Or maybe you got to this combo through High Spirits, and there was a response to the High Spirits, but they didn't use it. And then you got to the Fallen of the White Dragon. In this situation, it makes sense. It's the most practical thing to do, to just play around Hewwwoo and Maxi. You do want to respect it. So that's why I'm going to show you the version of the April line where we send Albion to better play into Hewwwoo and Maxi. So we're going to activate it. We're going to send Albion. We're going to summon. Then we're going to activate. Now let's assume that our opponent did not have Maxi here. We're just going to go for the full combo again. We're going to summon Ecclesia. Then we're going to activate Ecclesia. We're going to summon the Golden Sword Soul. Then we're going to Synchro into Ecclesia. Then we're going to banish. And we're going to summon Quem again. So it's pretty much the exact same line so far. It's going to be Quem Chainlink 1, Golden Sword Soul Chainlink 2. This is going to summon back our Ecclesia. Quem is going to send New Kit here. You do have to be playing New Kit for both of these combos. New Kit will summon back out Albaz. Then we're going to Synchro the two monsters that are not the Quem into the new Synchro. Synchro is going to trigger. Quem is going to trigger. We're going to revive back the Albaz again. The Synchro will search for Cartesia. And then what we're going to do is activate Cartesia. We're going to special summon it. Then we're going to activate it. And we're going to fuse like this. Now instead of going Albion and then going in the end phase with Fallen the Virtuous to pop it, since we already have an Albion in the graveyard, we don't need to summon it and then pop it to get its end phase effect. We can just go directly into Mirror Jade. And that's going to be the end of our main phase. We're going to go to the end phase now, and we're going to get Albion effect. Albion here is going to... Well, here you can sort of do whatever you like, right? You can set the Fallen, the Virtuous, which is what I'm going to say is the combo here, and then we add back Ecclesia. I'm going to say this is the combo, but you could also add this to the hand and then like try to pop your Mirror Jade. I mean, that would be pretty bad. It depends what you have, right? You could add the Fallen, the Virtuous if you had like another copy of it. If you had like an Alibur that you normal summon, something easy to pop, and then you can get the send of like Dogma Dragon to get Makuria. That's a real possibility, but in this one card combo, just in a vacuum, this is what we're setting on. It's a lot worse of an end board. Obviously the Synchro returns. It's a lot worse of an end board in terms of beating Dracotail. We don't have Makuria for Phymina. We also don't have Retribution. The reason we couldn't set Retribution is because there's only one name in play. So we would have to immediately return our Mirror Jade from the field if we wanted to negate their opponent's first play, right, of a Ketu or a Rahu or something. So that's why I chose not to go for Retribution. We just go Fallen the Virtuous. This is still perfectly fine against most matchups, but Dracotail could be a little hard. The mirror match could be a little hard. However, you got the benefit of playing around Maxi, and you also conveniently get this extra benefit of having an Albaz name in play. So now we don't just have to rely on Ecclesia resolving to get to Albaz Fuse. We can also go Mirror Jade, send Rinbrum revive this Fallen of the White Dragon. So in a way, this one actually is more reliable, but it is weaker. And something I should say about both of these combos, if you remember the end board for the pure April line, and now this one that plays around Maxi, the anti-Maxi April line, both of those are very, very good, especially the first one actually, especially the pure April line. It's very, very good at playing off of your hard drawn cards. Notice that there was no normal summon used in either of these combos. So if you had Alibur normal summon searches a free Fallen and the Virtuous, that's a free extra card to add onto the end board. This one doesn't really help much because we already have the Fallen and the Virtuous. We could search Retribution, but Retribution's kind of awkward as we've explained. However, the first one, right, where we set Retribution and we had multiple names in the graveyard for it, we didn't have a Fallen and the Virtuous. So if we hard drew an Alibur or a Fallen and the Virtuous itself, really free extra piece of interruption there, right? Really clean, just I drew an extra card, I now have an extra disruption, right? Really clean, straightforward, hard to mess up, that kind of thing. So I really like that property of these combos as well. I forgot to mention that the first time when we looked at the first line. And then I guess I haven't really mentioned it. I've said it before in previous videos, but I guess I'll mention it now again. If you weren't aware, ending on Mirror Jade is always really good, compared to not ending on Mirror Jade. I think a lot of the basic lists in the TCG, original lists I should say, a lot of the original lists of new branded in the TCG, before these cards came to Master Duel, didn't like to end on Mirror Jade. They relied on Albaz Fuse somehow resolving and then getting into Mirror Jade that way on the opponent's turn. I think that's really unreliable. That's why all of my combos I like to end on Jade, because one Widow Anchor, one Fallen the Virtuous from the opponent, and your Albaz Fuse is done. You know, Dominus Impulse, your Albaz Fuse is done. Anything can happen, droplets, super poly. Whereas ending on Mirror Jade is a lot more reliable because the banish is anytime, any phase. It sends for cost, it's hard to stop that. You can even send Rinbrum for more reliability of disruptions, even if they're going to out the Jade really easily. And if they do out the Jade, at least it pays you back with this crazy board wipe effect right in the end phase. Plus, getting it into rotation means that Quem can revive it, right? And so can New Kit as well. So yeah, I really do like ending on Mirror Jade. I think it's really important. And that was the crux of the reason why I used to play Branded in Red. If we go back to the deck list real quick, I'm not playing Branded in Red anymore. And the fundamental reason for that is because I was under the impression originally that you needed this card in order to reliably end on Mirror Jade. But then what I did was discover that this card allows you to make Mirror Jade very easily without needing Branded in Red. This card allows you to search for Cartesia, and then being an extra deck monster itself means that it's material for Mirror Jade. So either Cartesia directly making Mirror Jade with it, or making Albion with it, and then Albion making Mirror Jade by banishing this from the graveyard, gives you access to Mirror Jade on your end board. And that's really important because, I mean, this is basic deck building 101, but in almost all circumstances, a brick in the extra deck beats a brick in the main deck, right? Because you can't hard draw a brick in the extra deck and lose because of it, whereas you can brick on Branded in Red. So generally, this was favored over the Branded in Red lines, especially because the actual end boards that we discovered were kind of better as well. So that's why I cut Branded in Red, because we can combo into Mirror Jade very easily using this card. If you're not going to play this card, then you definitely have to play Red, in my opinion, because you need to end on Jade, otherwise your boards are kind of questionable, if you ask me. So yeah, that's my April lines. Now let's look at some other one-card combos, okay? Let's look at some other important one-card combos. Not the Fallen of the White Dragon line, but let's say our Nadia Servant and our Branded Fusion line. Let's look at both of these. The reason why the Fallen of the White Dragon line is the most important is obviously because that's the one that we're going to do first if we have option, if you have the option of doing it. Most of our starters try to get to that, like Aliber and High Spirits. If you do have the Aliber plus Hewwwoo or High Spirits plus Hewwwoo or, you know, Magnum, whatever, some kind of any target for it, you're going to do the same April line, I think. You're going to do that same line that I showed you, either the Anti-Maxi line or the one where you start with Titaniclad. If you have an out to Maxi, you're going to do one of those lines, I think. Even if you start with Aliber, even if you start with High Spirits, even if you start with Gold Sock, you're just gonna tweak it appropriately, right? But the main structure of the combo, which is really the important part, the structure, that you summon Quem with the Synchro, and that you make the second Synchro to get to Cartesia, and then Cartesia fuses, that's how you end on Mirror Jade. That is probably the most important little sequence of plays that really highlights, really identifies these combos, I should say. So that's what I think the most appropriate combo is with the Fallen of the White Dragon and all of the starters that search for it. Now let's quickly look at the cards that are different, right? The Opening, the Branded Fusion, the Nadia Servant. These cards clearly can't synchro, right? Because these lock you out of it. So we're going to have to do something very different with these. Let's start with Nadia 7. Okay, so here is my basic branded one card combo sheet. It's a little page that I made on my spreadsheet that isn't so overloaded with information. It's just one card combos, replay, end board, breaks required, super simple. And here's the Nadia 7 one card combo that I want to show you guys. Okay, so this is what I think you should do with Nadia 7 as a one card combo. You're going to start with Nadia 7 and you're going to send Titaniclad. Next, you're going to add the Fallen of the White Dragon. Then we're going to activate Fallen of the White Dragon and we're going to send Dogma Dragon. Then we're going to summon it, and then it's going to summon Dogmatica Ecclesia. So the reason we're not going for Incredible Ecclesia is just because we're locked out of the extra deck. Nadia 7, we cannot special summon from the extra deck, right? We cannot special summon from the extra deck. So there's no point going for Incredible Ecclesia and then trying to synchro, because we can't synchro. Instead, if you went for Incredible Ecclesia, you would just be ending on it as a disruption, right? And it is a reasonable disruption. It summons Albaz, so it wouldn't be the end of the world. However, there is something better that we can do, and that is if we're playing Ecclesia, Dogmatica Ecclesia, we can summon that. This card can trigger. This card searches as the Fallen and the Virtuous. And then what we're going to do is set it. And then we're going to go to the end phase. Titaniclad's going to summon Quam. Quam's going to send Cartesia. And then important that you don't add the Cartesia back. Don't just snap activate that Cartesia. Use this Dogma Dragon first. Add another copy of the Fallen and the Virtuous. Then we're going to activate that Fallen and the Virtuous, sending Albion, and we're going to pop our own Albaz. That's going to trigger Quam because a card left the extra deck, and that will revive the Cartesia. That's why we couldn't add it back to the hand yet. And then we're going to activate the Albion we just sent to set Retribution. We have multiple names in the graveyard for that Retribution, and we have the Fallen and the Virtuous set as well. So here is the end board. We have Dogmatica Ecclesia, Quam, Cartesia, Retribution, Fallen and the Virtuous. This doesn't really matter, this is not a disruption, but this obviously is a play. This can be a play, this is a disruption, this can be a disruption. So it's a pretty good combo for one Nadia 7. It's quite a lot better than what Nadia 7 used to do, thanks to it being able to search this Fallen of the White Dragon. So yeah, that is the end board here. There's a couple points about this combo that I want to clarify. There's a couple intricacies. It looks pretty simple, but there are some intricacies, so I'm going to show you again. But this time I'm going to point out some important decisions. So what we're going to do is send Titaniclad first. The reason why you send Titan and then add the Fallen of the White Dragon, and then the Fallen of the White Dragon sends the Dogma Dragon next, is because if you get drolled here on Nadia 7 resolution, say we get drolled here, there's no point sending Dogma Dragon, right, with Wildbass, because Dogma Dragon has to add. It can't special summon, it can't set, so it doesn't work under droll at all. So there's no reason to bother sending that. And that's why we would like to know if we're getting drolled now on the resolution of Nadia 7 before we're going to activate our Albaz. That's why we don't send Dogma Dragon first, because then it would be wasted. So we're going to start with Titaniclad, which does still do something under droll. But now that we know that we're not getting drolled, that's how we can know to send Dogma Dragon. If we did get drolled, we could send the Albion itself, and then we still end on Retribution and Quam, but we don't end on the Cartesia, right? Because we can't add that Fallen and the Virtuous to trigger the Quam. But it's still better than sending Dogma Dragon already, right? With Nadia 7, and then getting hit with droll and then it being useless. So you don't want to be in that situation. But now that we know that we're not getting drolled, we're getting Fallen of the White Dragon, and then we're summoning Dogmatica Ecclesia, adding it to the hand, setting it, and then, you know, doing the standard line. Again, I sort of mentioned it already, but don't add back the Cartesia, you need it in the graveyard. So adding the Fallen Virtuous now, toggling on, activating it, sending Albion, and then the reason we pop the Fallen of the White Dragon here, you might think that this is a little strange, right? You might think that, why not pop Dogmatica Ecclesia? This card is doing nothing on the end board, whereas Albaz is, right? Not inherently, but because we're ending on Cartesia, this being on the board for material seems really useful. And in fact, it's so useful that I'm convincing myself that it would be sometimes good to do this. However, there is a reason why we popped Albaz and not Ecclesia. It's for two reasons. Number one, especially in this current format right now, when the Albaz cards are new and popular, Super Poly is a menace. So anytime that you end on Albaz on your end board, it sets you up for a devastating Super Poly, right? If your opponent just Super Polys your board, it can be devastating, right? They can make Albion, they can make Mirror Jade when you get to something, whatever it is, right? They can go crazy with it. Albaz sets them up to do all kinds of stuff. And that's not even just the mirror match. Draco Tail can do that as well. Any decks that play Super Poly can do that, really, as long as they're playing following the virtuous targets, right? They're gonna have these at least, Dogma Dragon and Albion maybe, right? And Mitsurugi could be doing that as well, like Cooltoon even. So that's why I don't like ending on Albaz. Another reason to not end on Albaz is because of Lenitus, which is, it's sort of the same matchups that would play Lenitus, that would play Super Poly. But ending on an Albaz name is just making Lenitus slightly more of an option for them. You can imagine a world where you end on Albaz and then you go, I don't know, they're just able to remove an extra monster, right? If they're ever going to Lenitus themselves, they can also remove your monster. But it's mainly the Super Poly thing that is the downside here. The other reason, though, that isn't really format dependent, it's just inherent to the end board, is that having the Albaz in the graveyard means that your Fallen of the Virtuous can send Rinbrim, and then Rinbrim can revive the Fallen of the White Dragon. And that's really useful because then Fallen of the White Dragon will trigger to get Ecclesia, and Ecclesia is not just going to be, you know, that way your Albaz isn't just a material on the board for Cartesia, it is also the Ecclesia, which lets you get to the Albaz Fuse, right? The OG Albaz. So the ceiling is actually higher when you pop your own Albaz like this as well. Plus, very, very slight extra additional thing, this card can't be destroyed by battle. So who knows, if your opponent isn't paying attention, if they're not very familiar, they might just whiff lethal, thinking that they can attack over this, and then it turns out they can't. That's not any of the decision making here, it's really just the Super Poly stuff and the Rinbrim stuff. But I wanted to point out why we pop Albaz here, because at first glance it might look like this would be the better target to pop, but it's not. The Albaz is the better target to pop. So that's the Nadia Servant one-card combo. Now I guess let's talk about Branded Fusion. Yeah, so let's talk about Branded Fusion now. Branded Fusion being, it's kind of the elephant in the room slash not the elephant in the room in a lot of branded lists. This is really the main focus, right? This is the elephant in the room. And Branded Fusion, while it used to be the elephant in the room, is now sort of sidelined. However, there is still a bit of a controversial thing about my deck lists with Branded Fusion, and that is that the one-card combo that you do with Branded Fusion is pretty weak nowadays. Back in the day, it used to be pretty suspicious anyway, but it was good because you still had cards like the Bestial Rebellion, cards like Banishment, which would work really well with a Branded Fusion line, or an Alibra one-card combo line. However, nowadays you're not playing any of those bricks, right? So what the hell is Branded Fusion supposed to do by itself? And this is a question that a lot of people have asked of their branded deck, and there's been a couple of solutions to it, and I think my deck lists are a little controversial in that they don't really do anything about it. And I will explain myself, but just to start with the different ideas, some people think that in order to make Branded Fusion a worthwhile combo, you should play a brick, right? You should play a brick that allows the combo to be better. Whether that's Branded Fusion one-card combo, or Alibra into Branded Fusion one-card combo, which you sometimes have to do because you don't always have a high spirits target, right? So your Alibra sometimes has to search for Branded Fusion in order to do anything. In those situations, you want your Branded Fusion to do something useful. And a lot of the lines that we have require Branded Sword, This is one of people's options. They play Branded Sword in order to make the Branded Fusion line good. Another one is Cocktatorium. Right? Alright, Cocktatorium. However, my idea is to simply do nothing, right? The Branded Sword line is, the idea is that you go Albion with Branded Fusion, and then you banish your Albaz with Albion. Then your Branded Sword adds it back, right? You go Albion with Cartesia, and Albaz, white Albaz. You make Granguinol with the Albion, and then the Granguinol sends Shrouded, Shrouded sends Sword, Sword adds back the Fallen of the White Dragon, and then you activate the Fallen of the White Dragon, right? You can't synchro, but you can still send the Albaz Fusion name, you can still summon the Ecclesia, and that's a pretty good end board. The Cocktatorium idea is that you go Rinbrim, right? You go Branded Fusion for Rinbrim. You send Albaz, and you send Cocktatorium. Then you use this second effect in the graveyard. This first effect, I guess. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you contribute a Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast, special summon this card. So you tribute your Rinbrim from the field, summon out Cocktatorium, and then you get its main effect on the field to banish Mercuria from the deck, which searches for another Albaz. Then you get to resolve Albaz. Again, you can't synchro because you resolve Branded Fusion, but that's fine. You're still loading up the board with, Ecclesia. You're getting an Albaz name in the grave, like an Albion. You're also getting Rinbrim into play, which is pretty good too. So those are the ideas that people have for their one-card Branded Fusion combo, and the reason why I don't like any of those is because I think the chance that you are going to go first with a Branded Fusion and not have any additional plays to make that combo stronger, just like 4 non-engine and Branded Fusion, and that combo is resolving anyway, I think that is like stars aligning, right? That's a lot of things have to go right. First of all, you have to have hit the 50-50 to go first. Then you have to have drawn the very unlikely hand of Branded Fusion, no other plays. And then you have to not get Ashed or Max Seed. And I think that scenario is really rare. I think it's way, definitely mathematically proven, way rarer than just opening Branded Sword, right? Or opening Cocktatorium. I think the chances of you drawing this card and it being awkward, and especially Branded Sword, which is like actually a brick, the chances of you opening this and it ruining your hand is so high compared to the chance of opening the Branded Fusion one-card combo and doing it, that it's not worth it. You're going to ruin so many more games by drawing Branded Sword than you're going to win by having a better Brafu combo. So I don't really see the point in playing a card just for Branded Fusion. And instead, I like to do my very minimal combo with Branded Fusion if it comes up. And here is that combo. So here we are again on the spreadsheet. This is a combo I came up with a while ago. Here it is: Brafu, no Tragedy, no Lubellion, Ecclesia, Retribution, Granguinol, White Albaz. This is basically it, right? It's a very minimalistic combo, but the important part is that it requires no bricks. You're playing all of the normal cards that you normally do. So it starts with Branded Fusion. You're going to send White Albaz and Cartesia. You're going to summon Albion. Albion's going to activate. You're going to summon Granguinol. Granguinol is going to send Dogma Dragon from the extra deck to the graveyard. Then you're going to go end phase. Dogma Dragon will search for FMV. Toggle on. You definitely have to toggle on at this point because you don't have any other triggers. So you're going to activate it. You're going to send Titaniclad. You're going to pop the Albion. And then you get both. You get to summon the White Albaz from the deck, which is going to summon Ecclesia. And then you get to set Retribution or Fallen in the Virtuous. Retribution is always tempting when you have multiple names because it's stronger than Fallen in the Virtuous. And especially right now when Mirrors and Draco Tail is like, it's better to have this than FMV in a lot of cases. However, you can still set Fallen in the Virtuous. And there are cases where that will be better. So yeah, this is the end board. It's very minimal. It's Retribution, it's Ecclesia, it's also Granigranol to summon Quam. The reason why we summoned Wildbaz into Ecclesia instead of summoning Quam is because, well, Quam is a lot weaker on its own, right? Because Quam just sends Wildbaz and then we hope that they trigger it. Whereas we might as well just summon Ecclesia and have the Albaz whenever we like, right? And it's also because Granigranol can summon Quam anyway, so we might as well not double up, right? This axis is Quam anyway, so why bother summoning Quam? Just summon the Wildbaz, summon the Ecclesia, and then we can get Quam later with this. It's not great. It ends on Albaz, which I just sort of went on a tirade about not long ago about how it's a really bad idea right now because Super Poly will eat you for breakfast, right? But what can you do? It's not going to come up that much. You've still made a board, and if your opponent happens to have the Super Poly, which is like a niche subset of this already niche subset of games, so be it. So be it. So be it, right? You can't win them all. So that's my approach to Branded Fusion. It's basically to do nothing to my deck list at all, because I really highly doubt I'm going to be in many games where I have to do this combo. Because if you think about it, right, if we go back to the deck list, if we think about Branded Fusion, what do we have to open alongside it in order to have to do that line, right? If we draw Alibur with it, we can do a better line. We can do a better line with Alibur. If we draw a Quam with it, we can do a better line. If we draw even a Kit, we can do a better line, right? Even Kit can do a better line here. If you draw Fallen the Virtuous, you have maybe a better line. You could also just set this, I guess. If you draw Cartesia, you have a better line. If you draw Mercuria, you have a better line. If you draw Ecclesia directly, you have a better line. If you draw, I mean, this probably doesn't help, but you see what I'm saying, right? You have to draw like 2 Fuas, an Ash, and a Maxi for Branded Fusion to be like utterly independent of the rest of your hand. If you have just about anything else, it's gonna change. You're gonna be allowed to do a better combo. And even then, think about the cards that you hard draw that don't help the combo. It's mostly non-engine, right? If you have Super Poly backing up that board, or Maxi, or Ash, you might not lose the game even if you got Super Poly'd, right? So it's really, really rare that I think I'm gonna be missing Branded Sword or Cocatorium or something for Develian maybe, right? It's really rare that I think I'm gonna need a different card. So that's my idea behind Branded Fusion. It's to sort of just neglect it, because your hand is always going to allow you to do an improvised combo. Anyway, that should kind of do it for the combo theory that I wanted to get at. I guess I could go into a little bit of detail about like Branded in red, but I did kind of cut this because I feel like the Sword Soul is better, so I won't bother showing the red lines. I'll probably leave it at that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Please, if you have any questions, say so in the comments. I'll probably get around to answering some of them, maybe most of them. But yeah, thank you for watching. Stay cute, I guess.